had to learn a lesson about not basing my expectations on how limited things seemed. Our month at the Chicago Airbnb was coming to an end, and I was already getting nervous about what we would do next. It didn't look like there would be any way to get by, yet God had given me promises of His support over this time. At the same time as our room fees being due, I also had my car payment to cover too. The car payment was incredibly high because they put me on a special plan after it was recovered twice during this treacherous journey of seeing fulfilled promises in the midst of the storms against me. God had said that the storms against us were worse than ever before because we are finally reaching the end of this very long and gruesome journey of living on God's words of promise to be our housing and support for all of our needs. I never had to die more to my doubts and fears than ever before in my life. After enduring for so long, it was getting harder to stay open to the unlimited ways that God can fulfill His promises to survive. Since I was both needing our housing needs and car needs covered at the same time, I instantly shrunk back into a survival mindset. I was talking out loud and saying to myself, I guess I'm not going to be able to pay the car on time since we need to have our housing covered now as well. Then God corrected my lack of faith in His power through my daughter, and she said to me, "Why are you catastrophizing this time? Why are you already assuming that you won't have the car money even before that time has arrived? Why are you assuming we cannot have all we need?" I instantly had a deep conviction from God for my lack of faith and doubt in His abundant ways. Since I could not see how God would help me, I assumed that we would not be able to get by. So I turned my attitude around and I decided right then and there to have faith in the impossible from God. I prayed and I asked God to cover both our housing needs, wherever that be, and my car payment. And even then, I assumed that God wouldn't send enough to cover more than 2 weeks at an Airbnb, and I even started scoping out the cheap hotels without deposits, which is a very rare to find over here. Through my hardened heart of unbelief during the whole time, God started to help me to open up to the idea of Him covering us to stay a month with the same Airbnb host that we had been with. I cannot say I exercised my faith in some wonderful way this time. All I did was pray and hope as I opened myself up to believe that God was able to keep His words over our situation. I spent countless hours reading my promises from Him and encouraging myself to trust in the Lord. I felt like I was walking through Psalm 42, 5-6. Why am I so overwrought? Why am I so disturbed? Why can't I just hope in God? Despite all my emotions, I will believe and praise the one who saves me and is my life. My God, my soul is so traumatized. The only help is remembering you wherever I may be. After going through so much faith testing for so long and having to endure the onslaught of attacks, I was a wreck. I was tired. I wanted to quit. I had to pour my soul out to God and give Him the past pain and the limiting doubts towards Him. God has miraculously saved us for this past year since we took to Chicago. But I have also been beaten by waves so often. A wave would knock me down and then God would pick me back up. I lost my car 3 times and then God brought it back to me every time. I've cried myself to pieces in parking lots. When I was tempted to give up hope in God's promise, and then He would suddenly rush in to save the day with last-minute room money. It's been harder than anything in my life, and there were times when I laid on the floor just crying for God to make it all end. I cannot even explain to you how bad it hurts to never be able to settle into anywhere that God takes us. I always know that I will be leaving soon. And that is why I only have about 2 outfits with me and 1 pair of shoes. Because you cannot accumulate things with this lifestyle. It's hard. It's really hard. But God has given me a promise for my own happy home after this is over. God is using this time to grow my faith and trust in Him. I did not choose this by any means. God rescued me when I had nothing and no way to survive. And then God required complete trust and all abandoned obedience to Him to follow this journey. I have to die to self every single day because I don't desire to go through this, but I have to choose to trust the one who saved my life and gave me a path to follow. When no one was there to save us from death, Jesus swept in and lifted us up. He is my everything in all ways because He has become my Savior and the one who has made a plan for my life. So that is what I did. I thought about hope in God, and I spent all my energy focusing on His words to cover our life with His glorious riches. Then out of the blue, I surprisingly received enough to pay a whole month at an Airbnb and to pay my enormous car payment as well. God showed me to ask the Airbnb to let us stay, and they happily agreed. But they did move us into one of their other units. We moved into the new unit yesterday, and I cried so many tears of gratitude to have a home from God for this month. Everything came through to save us before the deadline to move out, and once again I learned a powerful lesson about the ever-present, unlimited power of God. I learned from this experience to not be limited by how things seem or look. God said that there was nothing impossible, and He is teaching me how to believe that. I went from not even having $5 in my account to suddenly paying for a month at an Airbnb apartment and almost $1,000 on my car in less than 5 minutes. Faith believes even in what seems impossible. God says when He says He will do something, then He will. It is up to us to take Him at His word and to deny every limited thought or limiting situation that claims otherwise. The only limits are what we choose to agree with. God said there are no limits and nothing is impossible. Through this encounter with His intentional love, I was able to see that promise fulfilled into my life. God saved my life, and I know that it won't be the last time. I love you very much. If you'd like to see more about our journey or what kind of books and services I have to offer through my website, it is at diamondsfromthedust.com.